What a pleasure and a privilege it is to be here. This is my 8th year I'm back.
Minus the year that you couldn't make it.
Yeah, besides when I was being operated on. Yeah. It's Shvat. Shvat is a very special month for me because I was born in Shvat. My father passed away in Shvat, my mother passed away in Shvat, and I was supposed to pass away in Shvat. So I had a heart attack on Gimel Shvat, which is actually my birthday. And as they were carrying me out, I said to my wife, I can't believe this because tzaddikim die on their birthdays, and I've worked my whole life not to be a tzaddik. I don't know how this happened. And Baruch Hashem, I was right. I'm still around. Anyway, but so Shvat is a busy month. So except for that one year that I was in the hospital, I've been here for many years. And you know, they invite you the first year, so okay, you know, see what happens. They invite you the second year, and you know, they give you a second chance. You know, they keep inviting you back after a while. So you figure you're either doing something very right, or they just can't figure out why you haven't gotten this right yet, and then keep giving you more and more chances. So if I don't, I hope they invite me back next year to have another shot at it. But for the most part, I have been varying from year to year, 2 basic talks. But you know, everybody decided to feel like, you know, maybe we should do a little bit of change. We did something different last year, and so we wanted to do something different this year. Now, I have quite a collection of different ideas that I'm happy to share. So I want to deal, since today is basically the Emunah Day, that's what we're dedicating this to, why do we cut the other side so much slack? In other words, why don't you ask an atheist, what is your proof that there's no God? How do you prove there's no God? And it's a really difficult thing to do, because in order to do that, you have to be able to say, I know everything that's out there to know that there's no evidence of God. It's really tricky. So this is basically the only evidence that they have. If there is a God, why do bad things happen? Now, I am a little older now. I have a different perspective on life. When I was younger, and I didn't have quite the tact that I have today, gives you an idea how bad that was. But anyway, so somebody would say to me, well, how can there be a God if bad things happen? I said, that doesn't prove that there's no God. That just proves you don't like him. And I'll do even further than that. And that is, if you think there's an all-powerful being out there who might just do bad things to you, I think it would be in your best interest to stay on his good side. Yeah? But it doesn't prove his non-existence. If your mother says, clean up the room, and you say, look, the problem is, Mom, I don't know if you exist. Yeah? And then she slaps you. And you say, well, that proves you don't exist. Because if I had a mother, she would never hit me. So it doesn't prove her non-existence. Yeah? It doesn't do anything for anybody, though. Because at the end of the day, when a person is suffering, if we have bought into all the assumptions that we have been given, there's a God, and he loves us, and he created the world for us, and he wants us to have a good life and happiness and pleasure. Now, how do you explain when something bad happens? Now, I'll tell you what I want to do. I don't want to deal with death, because that's a whole different shit. Yeah? If you wake up in the morning and you're dead, trust me, a whole different set of events kick in. Yeah? You wake up in the morning, you're like, oh man, now what am I doing? Yeah? So you just have to wait till somebody finds you. Yeah? If you live in Israel, it's not a problem because everyone's looking for your apartment anyway. So they, people have a different perspective on stuff. You know, it's like, you know, you see somebody going, like, I have to go to America. Why? My parents were just killed. Oh, you're taking mail? You know, so nobody has that perspective, you know, of what's going on. But, you know, somebody said, if you think nobody cares if you live or die, just try missing a mortgage payment. But, you know, so that's it. People don't deal with death. Death is a whole different thing. And I don't want to talk in a meta-historical sense about the general role of suffering in history. Because right now when I'm suffering, that doesn't help me. And if there's a God, and God, you know, created the world, as the Mesilas Yesharim says, to get the greatest possible pleasure, then why do bad things happen? And that's what I want to deal with. So we're going to start with a number of assumptions, because the question doesn't start until you have these assumptions. Number one, there's a God. If there's no God, why do bad things happen? Because we live in a random universe, and X number of people are going to get hit by lightning, and some of them will be davening mincha, and some of them will be eating a ham sandwich, and there's no correlation whatsoever, because the world is random. If you ask why, you're assuming someone's in charge. You assume that God is all-powerful. Now, I know that to us is something pretty basic, but there's another major religion that doesn't believe in that. Yeah? They won't tell you that God's not all-powerful, but they'll tell you that there's Satan. So, for example, one of the classic places we go today for philosophy is Calvin and Hobbes. Both Calvin and Hobbes were named after philosophers. And Calvin is talking to Hobbes, his tiger doll, who may or may not exist. This is a very difficult question. Sam Watterson, who wrote it, said the question of Hobbes' existence is too difficult for us to answer. So I don't know if this doll actually is alive or just, he thinks so. But he's talking to him and he says, I was in Hebrew school. Nice crowd, let's try again. I was in Sunday school. And I said, why do bad things happen? And they said, it comes from Satan. I said, why doesn't God stop Satan? And he says, well, he can't. I said, Satan is stronger than God? So they said, no, Satan's also part of the plan. So I said, you mean God is in cahoots with Satan? And I was the first kid excommunicated from Sunday school. You can't ask that, but that's the problem. There's a good God and a bad God. Zoroastrian, if you want to get back to it. And so, the devil, Satan does bad things, and God, tries to pick up the pieces and doesn't always manage. And that's it. There's a God of good and a God of bad. We don't believe in that. The Satan is just the malach who works for a Kadosh Baruch Hu. He can't do anything on his own. It would be nice to blame it on people, but as the Kli Yakar says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem, Midas Arachman, Elokeinu, Midas Adin, Hashem Echad. There's only one God. There's not a good God and a bad God. There's only one God. So he's all-powerful. He's all-knowing. I don't know, this is an old reference. There was a fellow by the name of Joseph Kushner who wrote a book. I don't know if anybody remembers it. Most people think it was called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. That's not the name. The name is When Bad Things Happen to Good People, because his basic premise is there is no why. It just happened. Yeah? He rereads the story in Eov, where Eov has these terrible sufferings, and God comes to him at the end, and he says to him, do you bring out the stars? Do you bring out the sea? Do you run this? Do you run that? Which has always been understood as saying, you're a person, you don't get the whole picture. But Joseph Kushner rereads it as God whining. Do you do this? Do you do that? Do you do this? I can't be everywhere. Yeah, we reject that. We don't say that. That's like Woody Allen once said. I don't think God is evil. I think he's an underachiever. Yeah, we don't believe that. Yeah, we reject that. So God is all-powerful, God is all-knowing, and God is good. If he's not good, then why do bad things happen? Because he's got a sixth sense of humor, right? Okay. So we reject all that. Now, if God is good, and God is all-powerful, and God is all-knowing, when something bad happens, what do I do? I want to give you 3 steps. Nothing I'm saying is a finish. Everything I'm saying you can find in Chazal, everything I'm saying you can find in Rishonim. I'm just presenting it in a way that maybe we can understand it better. The first question, and we've all heard this, when something bad happens is it bad? Usually when he lost his job, and somebody wrote it and said, how could you make fun of something like that? You know what it is to lose your job? Well, obviously, because he lost his job, He said, how can you make fun of something like that? Next time, why don't you make fun of cancer? So he says, because when a person loses your job, you say, well, at least you still have your health. When a person gets sick, no one says, well, at least you still have a job. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, not getting blown up is much more serious. Yeah? So now, the obvious question is, what about all the people on the bus? Okay, that's death. We're not dealing with that. Yeah? I told you. But here, this guy thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to him, and it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to him, because you don't know. You're looking at a story, and you don't see the situation. You think you do, right? I appreciate this because I fly a lot. I hate flying. Flying airline seats were made for lesser men than me. Yeah, and midgets and dwarfs. And you spend a 12-hour flight fighting over the armrest. So you try to get on as quickly as you can, take all the overhead luggage, you know what I mean? Take off your shoes, cover yourself up with the blankets, and no one can see that you can't buckle the seatbelt. Pretend to sleep, right? So this guy gets onto a Swiss Air flight, you know, and he settles in, he gets there. And a person from the airline comes with 2 security guards and says, "Sir, there is a problem with your ticket." He says, "No, it's not, it's right here, thanks for coming." He says, "Sir, you must come with us to the desk." And he says, "No, everything's fine." He says, "Please come with us." And the 2 people lift him to his feet. He slips into his shoes. And everyone goes, "Poor Ferguson, there he goes." Yeah. They bring him there and he says, "Your ticket was not paid for." He says, "Yes, it was." He says, "Do you have a receipt?" He says, "I don't have a receipt with me, I didn't take it with me." He says, "Well, you bought it through a travel agent?" He says, "Yeah, it's 12 o'clock at night, they're sleeping, you know." "And you have your credit card bill?" He says, "What about, who carries a credit card bill?" Anyway, it took them about 20 minutes to work it out, and they realized it was paid through a different account, whatever it was, everything's fine, get back on the plane plane took off without it. That's illegal. You're not allowed to take over somebody's luggage on the plane. He started screaming, carrying on. They said, "Please calm down, you know, we'll upgrade you on the next flight. We'll give you some Swiss chocolate, you know, we'll give you back some of your Holocaust funds." You know, just calm down, you know. Now, I can appreciate this because I'm a very nervous flyer, you know, and these things happen. It's terrible. Anyway, he lands. He calls his brother who's loading in North America, which is how I know the story, and hand him money. Because that was the Swiss Air flight years ago that blew up. He was literally on the plane, and God sent somebody to pull him off the plane. He's sitting there so angry, thinking it's the worst thing that ever happened, and it wasn't. Because you don't understand the process. And that is the very strange story in Parshas Ki Sisa, where Moshe says to God, "I want to see you." And if I was God, I would have said, "Come on, Moshe, you're not invisible." Yeah, but that's not what God says. He says, "Well, you can't see my front, you can see my back." Sure. So God passes by and he sees his back. What does that mean? Says the Gemara in Brachos. He showed him the knot of his tefillin. Evidently, God has a very large pair of tefillin, and he showed him the knot of the back. What the world is that supposed to be? So the answer is, he wanted to understand. I want to see you. It means I want to understand when bad things are happening. He says, you won't understand as it's happening. When it's over, you'll look back. That's the knot of the tefillin. Because you see someone wearing tefillin, you see two straps in the front. But you don't know where they're coming from unless you go to the knot in the back. So you don't understand things as they're happening. And that's the famous example that Chaim Volozhin gives. Yeah, a guy comes to a farmer and he says, "I always go into the store and buy bread. I want to find out how to make bread." So, "Yeah, you got some time?" "Okay." They go out to a meadow, you know, and say, "Oh, isn't this, oh, it's so beautiful, so pastoral, you know, flowers, grass, and nice. You like it? Yeah, hop in the tractor." They dig it all up. "You destroyed it." "Patience." Comes with another machine, makes furrows. "Oh, furrows are nice. Very nice, nice furrows." "You like furrows?" "Yeah, okay." Brings out some wheat. "Oh, wheat is nice. You like wheat?" "Yeah, okay." Starts throwing it in the mud. "You throw it in the mud." "Patience." Then he comes by with manure. He says, "That smells like," that's exactly what it is. "Yeah, what are you doing to the wheat?" "Patience." Come back a few weeks later, and there's a whole field of grain. "Oh, now I understand. It's so beautiful. You have a field of grain. For amber waves of grain." "Yeah, you like that?" "Yeah." Get in the truck. Cut it all down. "What are you doing there?" "Patience." Makes it into bundles. "Bundles are nice." "Oh, you like bundles?" "Yeah, okay." Sticks it into another machine. Whack, 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 whack. When it's all done, he's got much more wheat than he started with. "Oh, now I understand. You took the wheat and threw it in to be able to grow the wheat, be able to get more wheat. Now I understand everything. You wanted the wheat." "Right." Throws it in the grinder. "What did you destroy?" "Patience." And it comes out as flour. He goes, "Oh, white powder. I remember this from college." So, well, that doesn't go over with every audience. You know? White powder, that's very nice. You like that? Yeah. He says, "Oh, it's so beautiful, it's so pristine." Yeah, he adds water to it. "Oh my gosh, it's disgusting. Make it into mud." And he kneads it all up into dough, and then they form it into breads and puts it on the racks. And he says, "Now I understand everything. You destroyed the meadow to be able to plant the wheat, to be able to get more wheat, and you had to thresh the wheat to be able to get it out, and you had to grind it up to make the flour. Now I understand everything." He says, one more step, and he sticks it in the oven. He says, after all that, you're going to burn it? When the fresh bread comes out, he says, now you understand. But until you reach the last step, you don't understand. Now, this is something everybody in their life can see for themselves. That's the beauty of this particular argument. Every single person can look at their life and say, this was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and in fact, it was really the best thing that happened to me. So, I came from a family that was not Shomer Shabbos. It was very Jewish. They sent me, gave me a day school education. But we were not Shomer Shabbos. And I finally had achieved some social status in my yeshiva by becoming antisocial. And that's always a good way to do that. And I was finally in with the cool crowd for the only point in my entire life. And I was a shoo-in to be elected to student council president. You know, in my school it was called the GO. They had DO for GO. It was a symbol. I was an obvious, yeah. And I decided to become from and destroy my entire life. And you know, these people go away for a Shabbos and they have a challenge and a nice warm family. Not me. Somebody proved it to me logically, and I would always say, you know, if you can prove to me that something's true, then I'll do it. You know? I used to tell my wife, I'm the first one to admit it when I'm wrong. She says, until I can prove that you're wrong, it takes forever. You know, I said, well, when you do, I admit it. You know, so I found out this was true, and I was like, oh no, this is true. Because I have to know religion. So when you're in a school where the kids are not really from, and you become like a Morano, you know what I mean? Like you light candles in the basement, you know what I mean? You make excuses. Going out Friday night? No, I can't. I have a family thing. You know, you had one last Friday night? Yeah, weirdest thing. You know, I was like, excuses, you know what I mean? You try to hide the fact that you're coming from. And it came time for the elections. Now, I'm one of 6 boys, and I'm the quietest. So we were playing running bases. It was a Sunday in May. We were playing running bases. And we're going back and forth. And at some point, I slipped on the grass, and I landed on my ankle, and I heard it go crack. I heard it go crack. The pain was so intense. Now, you have to put this into perspective, because as one of my sister-in-laws was telling another sister-in-law, Orlofskys never get sick. They're always dying. They're dying. They never have a headache. It's a brain tumor. You know? We're always dying. Whatever it is, we're dying. You know? That's how it is. It's the worst thing it is, you know? And we tend towards the dramatic. You understand? So I'm lying on the ground, crumpled up in a pile, in terrible pain, and my oldest brother says, "Get up." I said, "I can't." He says, "You're faking." I said, "My leg is broken." Okay, could be. So what they did now is you had to keep playing, and you had to jump over me. Not everybody could make the clearance, you know what I mean? This went on for a while until another brother came home and everyone left. And at one point he says, "Why is David crumpled up in the grass?" Because he says his ankle is broken, but he's faking. Well, it could be. It's true, you know. Let's help him now. So 2 of them helped me in. The third brother played taps. My mother comes in. Like I say, my mother is used to people being overdramatic. So she says, "What's wrong with you?" I said, I broke my leg." "Why don't you empty the dishwasher first?" I wasn't planning to break my leg. My father's coming out from work and take her to the hospital for x-rays. Okay. So my older brother comes in and he says, "You know, one time I wanted to get out of gym class and I pretended that my arm was broken. And Dad had to pay for x-rays. And when he found out that I was faking, he beat the living daylights out of me. So you gotta make sure it's broken." My father comes home, he something's odd, let's go to the emergency room. I said, "No, I'm fine." "No, I'm taking x-rays." "No, x-rays, I'm really fine." Now, this is the first warm Sunday in May. And a warm Sunday in May, everybody goes out and plays sports, and then at night they all go to the emergency room. The place is packed. They couldn't even find a wheelchair to bring me in until finally they found one which did not have a footrest. The significance of which I did not appreciate until they came to wheel me. The pain was intense. And then I had to pull my foot up, bring me in, I'm waiting in line, it's going on for hours, it's boiling hot. Finally it doctor comes. You know, the ones working Sunday night are not the best and the brightest. You know what I mean? These are the interns. Yeah? So they go and they see my ankle. Does it hurt you here? No, here, no. Here? And I scream, yeah! And when they find that spot, they don't let go. Here? Bill, come over here. Push him over here. I'm going to have to take you in for x-rays. Right? Now, I don't know what an x-ray is like today, but back then it looked like Frankenstein's laboratory. The lightning of it. They put me on this table, and the guy walks a half a mile away into a lead-lined booth and says, "There's nothing to worry about." I said, "Then why are you in there?" And he takes the thing, and he takes the x-rays. It's now about 1 o'clock in the morning. The guy comes out, and he says, "Wow, your ankle is broken." I said, "Thank God." And he said, "What are you, crazy?" I said, "Never mind that." Now, this intern was very excited because he never did a cast before. I wish I was making up any part of this story. He puts on a full, my ankle was broken, he put on a full leg cast from my toe up to my hip without a bend in it. So there was no way that I could remove it. I had to lie down on the back of the car, and he gave me a pair of crutches. This was my first time with crutches. Since then, I have learned to check the little rubber tip, because sometimes they wear out. That becomes significant later. Yeah, I have my crutches, but I can't get on the school bus. I can't go on. And now the election starts. So my opponent realizes he has a chance because I can't come to school to run. So, you know, my brother who's handling my campaign is like, I'm saying, you know, he's saying vote for me, and I'm saying vote for Mr. X who's home with a broken leg. You got to come in. I said, what am I going to do? So finally we get an appointment with the real orthopedist. He had a good laugh over this cast. He cuts it down to below my knee, you know, slices my trousers, and I realized Friday will be the speeches, and I've been preparing my speech. I'm going to come in on my crutches. I've suffered from my knee. I'm going to do it real big dramatic. It's going to be the turning point. You know, this is it. And that Friday morning, the little rubber tip rubs out. Now, the reason you have a little rubber tip is because when you put a wooden crutch on a wooden floor, it has a tendency to flip out from underneath you. I fell to the ground. I did not go to school. I went back to the orthopedist. I lost the election. Now, 8th grade boys have the emotional range of a hydra. And they're about somewhere between paramecium and a hydra. Okay? I came back, I lost the election, and that was it. Nobody would talk to me. I lost all my friends. You know, I was a pariah. The only 2 people who would talk to me in the whole class were the 2 kids who were already friends. And I guess somehow they sensed, I don't know, you know, they say people can sense anything. So I guess they sensed that I was a secret Jew, you know. And they became my friends, and they got me to go away to a religious camp that summer. And if you would have asked me that day after the election, I would have said, this is the worst day of my life. If I could push a button and pop out of existence, I would do it. I look back and I realize that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because if I had been elected, I would not have had the strength of character to stand up to the pressure and stay firm. Even though I knew... We're talking about suffering. Things like this don't bother me. Anyway, even though I knew it was true. Because that's what happens. You know, everyone knows that. Why did the monkey fall out of the tree? He was dead. Why did the third monkey fall out of the tree? Peer pressure. It's very hard to stand up for the yeah, it's a very hard thing. So that was it. And whenever I say this to people, they can think of situations in their lives, right? Okay. I look at a situation and a person says to me, Reverend Orlofsky, I don't know. Maybe you're going to tell me this is good, maybe not, but I know this much. I'm suffering right now. Right now, I am in pain. You can't say that I'm not. You can't say that my pain is wrong. I had a woman once. My husband was a Rosh Kola. Says to me, I feel like God sets me up for test after test. Pushes me and pushes me. Waits for me to fall, and then laughs at me. What a horrible thing. This poor little woman in this giant hand pushing her until she falls, and then you hear, oh. Now, the most obvious answer is, no, that's not true. But I learned that I can't say that. You see, the first time I ever substituted in a seminary, because girls have feelings. Guys don't. You just hit them and tell them to shut up, and that's fine. But first time I was teaching in a seminary, a girl said something, and I said, that's wrong. And she said, how can you say that to me? You just invalidated me. I said, what are you, a parking meter? I'll put another quarter. I lost the room. I really lost the room. So now, and I couldn't, after that I couldn't separate for 20 years. No matter what a girl said, I said, that's a good answer, you know. Is there a different answer, maybe? Like a bright one? Anyway. You don't want to hurt people's feelings. You know, you gotta be sensitive, you know. This is something that I've mastered, you know. My sensitivity is off the charts, you know. In fact, I can say I have 11 children, and there's at least one of them that still talk to me. But anyway, you know, so she says to me, this is how I feel. I said, listen, I said, I hear what you said. You know, God waits for the fall, and then I said, listen, I've got 11 kids, thank God. They all know how to walk. You know how they learn how to walk? They start crawling, and then they start creeping on the furniture, and then you take them by the hands, and you start walking with them. Yeah? And at some point you let go, and you say, walk to Abba. And the kid says, okay, what's the deal here? He knows I can't walk. That's why he's holding me for my ankle. Yeah? And I said, no, you can do it. And the kid says, okay, I trust these people. And they take one step, and they take 2 steps, and they fall. What do the parents do? Yay! The kid says, these people are sick. They set me up for a fall, they wait till I fall, and then they laugh and cheer. But we weren't laughing and cheering that they fell, we were laughing and cheering that they took 2 steps. And eventually they'll take 5 steps and 10 steps, and they'll learn how to walk and how to run and how to dance and how to play. And if you never want a kid to fall down and you keep trying to pick them up, it'll be a little embarrassing when they're 35 and you have to carry them into the office. You know what I mean? Mom, you want to just sit, you know what I mean? I wanted to get a coffee. You know, just put them in the floor. I'll crawl over there. Keep it over there, you know? No, you want a kid to be able to learn, you have to be prepared to fall down. So, you know, yeah, you hear God cheering because God's happy that you made it. So you fall down. That's how you learn. You learn by falling down. There's no way to learn how to walk without falling down. Yeah? So I had a girl who was at Tzadikis. It was when I was running NCSY. Just a really special girl. Her father was a very difficult fellow, and her mother was sort of like a free spirit, and she decided she didn't want this life anymore, and she ran off, left her husband, left her family, went to live in a commune. And so the father looked at this girl and said, well, your mom left, now you're the mom. You're going to be in charge of the cooking and the cleaning and the shopping, and you're going to take care of the house. I'm going to work. Now, this girl took it. She took it without a problem. But she had a dream. She was going to go away to this seminary. Today, everybody goes to the yeshiva seminary. Back then, it was very, very rare. And she had this dream. She was going to go to this high-level seminary. They don't give out any scholarships. She's going to have to raise the money for the tuition and for her living expenses, because they didn't give any food or anything like that, you know. It's not like over here where each guy gets 3 gigantic baguettes and a bottle of soda. I said when they were setting it up, I said, are there any cups? He says, no, everyone just takes a bottle. You know? So they have to buy their own food, buy her own clothes, buy her ticket. You know, it's going to take a lot of money. And you also have to have top grades. So starting in 9th grade, she had a regimen where she would go to school, then go back, take care of the house, do the cooking, do the ironing, do the laundry, do everything, do the shopping. And then every weeknight and every weekend she would work for a caterer and as a waitress, and she put away all of her money. Came 12th grade, she had the money for the ticket, for the tuition, for her living expenses, for her clothes. She had taken care of the house, and she had the top marks. She goes in for the interview, and she's turned down. And she was devastated. And she calls me up, and I said, listen, I know the head of the seminary, you know, I'll talk to him. So I call him up, and he says, oh, you have any good girls for me? I said, I have the best. He says, who? I tell him the name. He says, what? It's the worst girl I ever interviewed. I said, it can't be. She's great. Because no, it can't be. I said, just give her another interview. He says, I can't. I'm leaving tonight, but let Rabbi so-and-so interview her, and I'll do what he says. So I said to the rabbi, do you mind if I come along? He says, no. She was the worst interviewee there ever was, ever, in the history of interviewees. Yeah? The first question was, why do you want to come to this seminary? Everyone knows the answer to that question. I'm looking for a place where I can grow. That sounds better than, I want to party. Why do you want to come to the yeshiva? I'm looking for a place where I can grow. Guy told me he interviewed like 20 girls. Every girl said the same thing. Finally he said, why, what's wrong with you now? Nothing. Then what do you want to change? I don't know. What do you do? So he says to her, why do you want to come to this seminary? Because it's near my grandmother's house. No. And it was downhill from there. That was like her best answer. Anyway, she leaves, and the guy looks at me and says, this is a put-on line, right? I said, listen, she doesn't interview well. He says, well? I said, at all. I'm asking you as a personal favor of me to take this girl. He says, I'll do it under a say-so. I don't feel good about it. I said, you don't have to feel good, just take the girl. Fine. I called that night, I said, congratulations, you're in. So she says, only because of you, right? I said, well, of course, my recommendation carried weight. She goes, no, I mean, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gotten in, right? Rabbis never like direct questions like that. I started to tell a story. We had a princess. Anyway, she starts crying and she says, I only had one dream, to go to the seminary. Why didn't I get my dream? And I said to her, because you want to help people. And one day you'll be able to help somebody because of this. It's kind of lame. It was the best I could come up with. She was satisfied. So what the heck, you know? Then when she went off, no surprise, she was a superstar. They loved her. She was great. She was terrific. She comes back. She goes into social work. And she eventually is working in an agency. And years later, I get a phone call. And she says, it happened just like you said. Just like you said, it happened. And I said, who is this? I used to do that. I always assumed that everybody knows who I am. And I would just start a conversation, and eventually people were like, who is this? So now no matter who it is, I call up and say, Shalom, this is David Orlofsky. And my mother would say, I know who you are. But I'm not taking any chances anymore. No matter who it is, you know. Call my brother, Shalom. This is David Orlofsky. Anyway, so I said, who is this? She said, so I said, oh gosh, I heard from you so long. Because do you remember when I didn't get at the seminary? I said, yeah. And do you remember I asked you why, and you said, because one day I'll be able to help somebody? And I said, nope. No recollection. I said, no. It came to me, you know? So she said, a girl came into the place where she works today, and everybody was trying to work with this girl. This girl was hysterical. She was suicidal. Nobody could help her. And finally, I just, they went down the chain. I was the only one left, And I said, let me help you. And she said, you can't. And I said, I can help you. And she says, you don't know what I'm going through. Do you know what it's like to have a dream and never have it fulfilled? And I said to her, yes, I do. And she says, I believe you. And I was able to help this girl. So sometimes we go through pain, and I can't say it's not pain. It is pain. One of my kids had all kinds of aches and pains. I brought him to the doctor, so help me. I couldn't believe it. But this guy went to Harvard Medical School, so he must know what he's talking about. And I said, what's wrong with my kid? He goes, growing pains. I was like, no, really? He says, yeah. He grew so quickly that everything's hurt him. He just grew too much. You want to grow, you're going to fall down. You're going to go through pain. You want to be a sensitive person, you're going to go through these experiences. So a person says to me, okay, I don't see how this is good. I don't see how this is a growth experience. It's just bad. I just see this as something bad. How do you explain that? So I say, I would ask a group, how bad does something have to be for us to question God? So the person says, well, a death in the family, a serious illness, if my house burns down, a serious car crash. I said, that's too bad. Because you're a nice guy, but you don't strike me as being on the level of prophecy. So let's say there's something wrong in your life, and God wants to get your attention. Yeah? So whatever he does, you have this little magnet on your refrigerator that says, don't sweat the small stuff, It's all small stuff. So that's no big deal, that's no big deal. What do I have to do till I get your attention? And I say to God, listen, if you want to send me a message, you better kill someone I love, give me a serious illness, burn down my house, otherwise I'm not going to pay any attention to you. And God says, well, you're going to give me a lot of room to maneuver. The Gemara says, how bad does something have to be to question God if you bang your finger? Now, God is all powerful, He could have made sure that didn't happen. You bang your finger, you say, why did this happen? Because sometimes when there's something wrong in your life, God gives you a tap on the shoulder. And if you ignore that, He'll shake you a little bit, He'll pull you. What do I got to do to get your attention? And if you sweat the small stuff, you don't have to sweat the big stuff. Yeah? So, this is Alma Meltzer. He was speaking to a student, and his wife gave a scream from the kitchen, and he goes into the kitchen, there's a hurried conversation, the two of them run out, comes back an hour later, and he says to the Bachar, where were we? He says, no, Rebbe, what was that all about? It's not important. Rebbe, you ran out of the house and left me here alone for an hour. I went through all your drawers. You know what I mean? Like, you got to tell me what's going on. So my wife is heating some milk, and it's boiled over. And that never happened before. So my wife said to me, why did this happen? And then I realized that in the old days, there used to be milkmen who used to deliver milk to your door. I still remember this. So the Tanuva milkman delivered the milk, and I didn't have the money because my wife had the money, and I didn't pay him. So we ran down to Tanuva, we found out where he lived, and we paid him for the milk. And he said, thank you so much, because the little bit of money is what I need to buy bread for my family. That's our supper. And I thought of myself when I heard this story. What do we say? No sense crying over spilled milk. So you spilled the milk, big deal. Okay, so God breaks your oven. I hated that oven. Get a new oven. It burned down your kitchen. Great, remodel. You know what I mean? Like, blow up your house. What do I have to do? You stop and say, maybe there's something wrong in my life. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Because when something bad happens, why does it happen? All right, you're about to speak a really juicy piece of Lashon Hara. Someone opens the door and hits you in the lip. And your lip splits. And you sit down and you say, oh yeah, wait, let me see. This is clearly bad. This is not a growth experience. God must be sending me a message. I don't do enough chesed. So you start a chesed organization, you raise a lot of money, you do a lot of good things. Now when the dust clears, I ask you, why did you get hit in the mouth? And the answer is, I have no idea. I'm not a prophet. Yeah? They asked Rav Shimon bar Yochai, why was that generation going to be wiped out in the time of Purim? And he said, because they went to Achashverosh's party. When you read the Megillah, it looks like it's one story, but that was 9 years earlier. You know, you didn't make an association. They didn't realize what was happening, how this fit in. I can't tell you for sure. I'm not a prophet. Only a prophet can. Having said that, when something happens, obviously God gave you intelligence, and you should try to figure out how it works out, because as the Mishnah in Sotah tells us, God does everything neither connected neither. If you see something happen, something has to work out. And that's what you try to do, you try to work it out. So I gave this class years ago, over 20 years ago. And this girl says, explain this to me. 3 times, I broke my right arm at a roller skating party. Twice was my birthday, once was my cousin's birthday, and I fell and I broke my right arm, each time. What is the message? I said, I think it's pretty obvious. You're a klutz and you shouldn't go roller skating. There was one time that a kid fell out of a window, a 3rd-story window, and landed in bushes. And the father ran to a Shlomo Zalman and said, what is God trying to tell me? He says, to put up a window guard. You know what I mean? Like, that's a pretty easy one, you know? Like, even I can figure that one out, you know? So she says, no, you don't understand. I'm a semi-professional skater. I perform. I dance. I do leaps. I do a couple of things. I've never fallen from the time I was a little kid. I only fell 3 times at these birthday parties, and I broke my right arm. I said, that's really weird. Yeah. I said, listen, I'm not a prophet. I can't tell you why. I would tell you how I would work it out. She says, okay. I said, are you somebody who enjoys giving or taking more? What do you enjoy more? She says, giving. I'm always uncomfortable taking. I said, birthday is a very important time. Birthday is a kol hatchola Horatius brings din. Your birthday is a special time of your life. And what did you do? You said, okay, how about this? Yeah? A guy comes up to me, came to Discovery, and he was kind of angry. He had this sort of angry look on his face. And he said, all right, Rabbi, explain this one to me. My father was a very athletic person. His whole life was sports. He played every sport, and he was really good at it. And he got this disease which is destroying, I don't know if it was his nerves or his muscles or which one it was, and he's losing control. Yeah? And he can't take care of himself. And I moved in to help him, but he doesn't want me to help him because he's very proud. And I hear him get up at night to go to the bathroom, and I hear him fall to the floor, and I want to run out and help him, but I know he won't let me. And so I don't know what to do. What do I do? Why is this happening to my father? I have no idea. I met your father. I don't know anything about this, you know. But I'm trying to figure this out. I want to at least give the guy something to feel better. I said, well, how's your mother dealing with this? She says, she's not in the picture. I says, why? She says, they got divorced many years ago. I says, why? Because she said that my father doesn't know how to live in a relationship. All he cares about is sports. So that's why she divorced him. I said, well, does he have anybody in his life? He says, well, when he couldn't play sports, he started to go to a support group for this disease, and he met a nice woman who also has it. And before I left for Israel, he said to me, for the first time in my life, I'm in love. I said, well, if he never got this disease, he never would have found love. What's more important, to play sports or to find love? I caught him off guard, and he said, but what do I have to go through this? Ooh, good answer. Yeah? When a tragedy happens, it doesn't just happen to you. It happens to your family, it happens to your neighborhood, it happens to everybody. Yeah? I said, you know, you're unusual. You're a college student, and you're much more serious than everybody else. He says, yeah, because these people don't appreciate what life is really all about. I see what my father's going through. I know what life is about. I said, so because of this, you're probably going to live a more serious life. You're going to have a more meaningful marriage. You're going to live your life differently. And for the first time, I saw him smile. Now, I can't do this all the time. I wish I could. A person calls me up, they heard me tell the story over on tape once, and they said, okay, explain this. All the glasses in my house are breaking. I said, well, you got crummy glasses, buy better glasses. No, all different types of glasses from different sets. I said, well, you feel real clutch. No, sometimes they just break on their own. Look, somebody was just pouring juice into a glass and it broke. I said, you need an exorcist. You know, I don't know. You're a poltergeist. I don't know. I can't figure out. I gave a few suggestions, what it might be, but they said, no, flies does that. You have to work it out yourself. I can't do this all the time. But when something happens to me, when I go through a bad time, first thing I say to myself is, maybe this isn't bad. Maybe there's something good. And if not, I say, maybe this is what I need to grow. Because sometimes we go through bad things to grow. God is teaching me throughout my life that I am not in control of events. I'm very nervous, and He always puts me in situations where it's out of my control, and there's nothing I can do about it. My wife said, what are we going to do? And I said, nothing. There's nothing we can do. Either we'll make the plane or we won't make the plane. Either we'll make it, nothing, I can't do anything. I can't fly, I can't do, nothing I can do. This is it. Yeah? And sometimes I see that there's something wrong in my life, and God sends me a message to tell me how I can be able to improve it. Yeah? Now, one very important point. Yeah? A guy calls me up, Erev Yom Kippur. He says, Rabbi, I'm out of faith. Now, Erev Yom Kippur is a bad time to be out of faith. Right? I think we're all agreed on that. So I said, what happens? And he tells me a story that is one of the most horrific stories I've ever heard. His father was committed to an insane asylum before he was born. His mother was also insane. She tried to kill him as a child. She was institutionalized. He went to live with his grandparents, who were very poor. They ran a little store. He had to take care of his seriously handicapped aunt, change her bedding, help take care of her, etc., and work with his grandfather in the store. One time people came in to rob the store. They shot his grandfather in front of him. He says he lived, but I was left behind to wipe up the blood, clean up everything. And he had a whole bunch of handicaps himself. And somehow, eventually, he became frum, and he found his way to Eretz Yisrael. But because of his various handicaps, he thought he would never get married. And eventually, he found a girl, and he got married. And we've been married for 4 years, and the doctors just told us we could never have any children. And now I'm out of faith. I said, let me call you back. I have to think about this. I hung up the phone, and listen, when you're in my line of work, you hear a lot of terrible stories all the time. It comes with the business. But my wife looked at me, she said, I've never seen you like this. And I told her the story. She said, what are you going to tell him? I said, I already know what I'm going to tell him. I just have to get the strength to do it. And I called him back and I said, I have no right to tell you what I'm about to tell you, but I'm going to tell it to you because you know it's true. Rashi says, how come Yitzchak and Rivka didn't have children for 10 years? Because God loves the tefillas of tzaddikim. I don't know what you did to get God to be so impressed with you, but tell me so I can avoid it, because I don't want to go through what you're going through. But God is obviously very impressed with you, and He knows that this is going to spur you on to become an even better person. There was silence, and then he said, I knew that already, I just had to hear it from somebody. Chaim Shmulevitz says, Sarah was greater than Abraham. And yet, God tells Abraham, take your son up the mountain and kill him. And he takes him up the mountain, and he's about to kill him, and God says, stop. And they walk back together. The Satan tells Sarah that Abraham is going to kill Yitzchak, and she dies. Just dies. So, what's the difference? Chaim Shmulevitz gives 3 answers, but one of his answers is because it wasn't her test. And whenever God gives you a test, He gives you the strength to be able to handle it. But we could drop dead just hearing from other people's sufferings. God gives us what we can handle. I know it's trite. I know we've heard it 1,000 times. But at the end of the day, God has not given up on you. And that's what the Gemara says. If nothing bad happens to you, for a while, you have to start to worry that maybe God just gave up on you. If bad things are happening, it's because God cares about you, and He's not ready to give up on you, and He thinks you can be a better person. And so sometimes when things are wrong in your life, He's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, you can be better. But when you hear what some people are going through, it can just break your heart. Just break your heart. My friends, I'll give you one last exercise that I use myself. I started doing this about 15 years ago. The first bracha was Shmona Esrei, Gomel Chasodim Tovim V'Kamei Hakol. Now the truth is, this is really more appropriate in Modim, but I have ADD and I'm spaced out by that. I think the first bracha I still have a chance. Gomel Chasodim Tovim, and I say, like what? And I think of something good that God has done for me, V'Kamei Hakol, and I give God credit for it. Somebody said to me once, why does God do so many bad things to me? I said, He doesn't. He does so many good things to you, but you take credit for that. And when something goes bad, you pin it on God. But if you're going to blame Him when things go wrong, you got to give Him credit when things go right. And trust me, there's a lot more good things in your life than bad things. You just don't think about it. And so 3 times a day, I think about something good in my life, and it has changed my life. God has a really, really good track record with me. And so when something goes wrong, I give Him the benefit of the doubt. Probably He's sending me a message. Probably He wants me to become a better person. Because you have the ability to live a truly, truly meaningful life. If nothing ever happens, so you can turn around and say, oh wow, look how good God is. A parent who lets a kid eat candy all day, not bother brushing his teeth, going to bed, washing, or going to school, we call that child abuse. It's called neglect. They'll take them away and give them to a family that cares about this kid. If God doesn't care what you do and never does anything to get you to think about your life, it's only because He doesn't care about you, and He cares too much about you to let you slip away. So the truth of the matter is, when people look at what bad things happen, and they say, well, how can you explain God? I say, how could you see bad things happen and not realize that God cares about you and is looking out for you? Yeah? I'll leave you with this one story. It's a famous story. This guy is walking along the beach and his wife died and he's very depressed. And he says, God, you always said you would walk with me. But I'm looking and I only see one set of footprints. So where are you? And God says, those are my footprints. I'm carrying you. You just don't realize it. So please God, all of us should have only a life of blessing and good things, but when something bad happens, we should have the strength to look for it and say how I can use it to become a better person. Then there is no such a thing as meaningless suffering. It's just opportunities for us to become better people. Thank you very much.